The move was supposed to bring healing. After months of hospitals, therapy sessions, and sleepless nights, I thought Evergreen Hills might offer something close to peace. Nestled just outside the city, the gated community boasted wide sidewalks, trimmed hedges, and a promise of quiet normalcy, exactly what my 12-year-old son, Liam, needed. He hadn't walked on his own since the accident. A drunk driver had shattered our lives in seconds, leaving Liam partially paralyzed and battling daily anxiety attacks. But there was one light through it all: Daisy, his golden retriever and certified service dog. She was his steady companion, trained to sense his panic before it peaked and anchor him in moments when the world spun too fast. We arrived on a cloudy Thursday just before sunset. The moving truck rumbled away, leaving us standing amid boxes and a nervous kind of hope. That's when we met her. Karen appeared like a thundercloud on heels, blonde bob, perfectly angled, clipboard clutched like a sword. She crossed her pristine lawn with practiced fury, her HOA badge pinned like a sheriff's star. Her gaze dropped to Daisy, who sat obediently beside Liam's wheelchair. "No dogs over 30 pounds, she said flatly, without so much as a hello. "She's a service animal," I replied, instinctively stepping forward. "Registered, protected under the ADA." Karen didn't flinch. "Rules are rules. Emotional support animals don't count here. You'll need to file for an exception." "She's not for emotional support," I said, suppressing the irritation rising in my throat. "She's medical, she's trained, and she's staying." Karen's lips curled. "Then I suggest you read our bylaws, Judge Patterson." And emphasized the word like an insult. "We pride ourselves on uniformity here." I didn't respond, not because I was intimidated, but because I knew exactly what she was. I'd seen her kind in the courtroom. People so obsessed with power, they'd weaponize rules just to feel taller. She thought the HOA gave her control. She thought her badge meant something. She had no idea. Over the next 2 weeks, the violations started arriving. Neatly folded envelopes slid under our door like polite threats. Mailbox paint does not match community palette. Unauthorized wheelchair ramp visible from street. Service dog creates potential liability. Advise relocation. Every notice signed by Karen. Liam tried not to show it, but I saw the toll it took. The boy who once adored sitting outside with Daisy now hesitated at the front door. Every day he asked, "Is she going to yell again, Mom?" And every day I said the same thing: let's just keep being kind. The truth always finds its way. But inside I was documenting everything: emails, HOA notices, every comment Karen made about Daisy or Liam. I even noted the time she screamed from across the street because Daisy sniffed her rose bushes. Then came the town barbecue we hadn't planned on attending, but Liam wanted to feel normal. So we packed up a small dish, clipped Daisy's harness, and rolled toward the clubhouse green. Karen saw us the moment we arrived. She stood beneath the HOA's pop-up tent, arms folded, lips thin. Her voice rang out across the lawn. "Dogs aren't allowed near the food. That includes yours." Conversations stopped, heads turned. I calmly approached her. "She's a service dog." "The law says." Karen cut me off. "The law doesn't override our bylaws." That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just ignorance. It was hostility. Personal. She wasn't just enforcing rules. She was targeting us. Liam's hands clenched, on his wheels. Daisy whimpered. I locked eyes with Karen. I said nothing. I didn't need to. Instead, I turned and wheeled Liam away. But I promised myself something that day I hadn't whispered to even my closest colleagues. This woman had no idea who she was playing with. And I wasn't just a mother, was a federal judge. I had taken down cartel lawyers and corrupt CEOs without breaking a sweat. Karen thought this was her turf. She had no idea. I came armed with a constitution, and I was just getting started. The sun was just beginning to dip beneath the treetops when Liam asked to go to the park alone. That was a small, quiet space at the end of our street, just a bench under a sycamore tree, some swings, and a fountain that bubbled softly even in silence. For most children, it was ordinary. For Liam, it was freedom. "Independence, are you sure?" I asked, zipping up his jacket. He nodded. "Daisy knows the way, and I have my phone." I hesitated but relented. After all, we were in a gated community, and I had a full view of the park from the kitchen window. Daisy, ever alert and trained to assist, walked beside him in her blue vest like a little guardian angel. I returned to my desk, sipping coffee and working through case summaries until something outside made me freeze. Karen. She had materialized like a bad omen, marching across the greenbelt in her signature wedge heels and pastel tracksuit. Her clipboard was gone, replaced by a coiled metal tool, one of those telescopic gardening claws. I stood up. She wasn't walking, she was storming through the glass. I saw Liam stop. Daisy stood firm beside him, tail still, ears perked. The space between them and Karen closed fast. Then I saw it. She raised the tool and swung it, aimed directly at Daisy. I dropped my mug. The ceramic shattered on the tile as I tore through the house and out the front door, barefoot, heart hammering like a war drum. By the time I reached them, Liam was sobbing. His wheelchair had tipped partially sideways on the curb, one wheel caught in a rut. Daisy whimpered beside him, her front paw bleeding where Karen had struck her. Karen was red-faced, eyes wild. She jumped at me. That dog is dangerous. I was defending myself. You attacked a trained service animal, I said, my voice like steel. That's a federal crime. Karen's eyes flicked to my face, searching for a crack. She found none. She lunged at me. She insisted again. These animals, they don't belong in neighborhoods. She's aggressive. You people think your problems give you special rights. My hands clenched. Not in anger, but restraint. Liam, I said gently, kneeling beside him. Are you hurt? He shook his head, tears still streaming. Daisy nudged his lap with her snout, despite the injury. Loyal, steady, everything Karen, WASN, single quotes to. Karen pointed again. I'm calling animal control. That mutt needs to be put down before she mauls someone. I stood slowly and pulled out my wallet, not to grab my phone, but to show her something else. My badge. Not a police badge. A federal identification one few ever see up close. It was embossed with the seal of the United States District Court. I'm Judge Evelyn Patterson, United States Federal Bench. I preside over cases involving federal law, including ADA compliance and disability protections. Her lips parted, but no words came out. You just struck a federally protected service animal. On video. Karen blinked yes, I said, glancing pointedly toward the HOA-installed security camera mounted on the nearby light post, the one you personally fought to have installed. It covers the park from 3 angles. You're bluffing. Don't bluff, I said, but you've just raised this conflict from petty harassment to criminal assault. For the first time since moving in, Karen looked small. I picked up Daisy gently and wheeled Liam home with my other hand. Karen stood rooted in place, her mouth moving, but her voice swallowed by the rustle of the trees that night. I bandaged Daisy's paw and filed 3 official complaints, one to the HOA board, one to the local police, and one directly to the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. I attached photos, footage, a brief summary of events, drafted with the precision of someone who's sentenced men to life over less. Liam was quiet as I tucked him into bed. Did I do something wrong, Mom? No, I said, kissing his forehead. You were brave. Some people just don't understand what real strength looks like. He nodded. Daisy curled beside him, her tail thumping softly. Outside, the streetlights buzzed on. Inside I began to prepare, not as a mother, but as a judge. This wasn't over. Karen thought she had power. She was about to learn what real power looked like. Karen's silence didn't last. By the end of the week, she emerged from her metaphorical bunker with a fresh wave of venom. The security footage had been pulled, confirmed by the HOA's security contractor, and the evidence was damning. Still, rather than apologize or retreat, Karen did what cornered bullies do best. She lied louder. A flurry of emails hit the community inbox. They came cloaked in faux concern, painting Daisy as an unpredictable animal and Liam as a troubled child using his condition for attention. She warned neighbors that we were bringing litigation energy into a peaceful place and that our family refused to follow protocol. I watched from behind calm eyes as her web grew thicker and sloppier. Some neighbors, I could tell, were unsure what to believe. Others offered silent support, nods at the mailbox, warm glances at the part. A few brave souls even sent handwritten notes, apologizing for the atmosphere Karen had created. But I didn't need their pity. I needed results. That's when the news broke. One anonymous tip. Just a simple email to a local journalist, HOA president, accused of assaulting a disabled child service dog caught on HOA cameras within 48 hours. The headline was everywhere. Local news stations camped outside Evergreen Hills, and Karen's smug photo taken from the community newsletter was suddenly the face of discrimination gone unchecked. The reporter even quoted the ADA statute I'd cited. Interference with or injury to a service animal is a violation of federal law, punishable by fine or imprisonment. Karen tried damage control. Of course, she issued a statement calling the incident a misunderstanding and claimed she felt threatened by an unleashed dog. That lie didn't hold for long. Daisy had never been off-leash, not once, and the footage clearly showed her calm, tethered, and seated before Karen raised the weapon. Still, Karen was relentless. When the legal notices hit her mailbox, first the civil lawsuit for damages, then the formal complaint from the U.S. Attorney's Office, she exploded. She's using her title to intimidate me. She screamed at the emergency HOA meeting. This is judicial overreach. She paced in front of the board, arms flailing, accusing everyone from the postal worker to the treasurer of conspiring against her. The board didn't say much, but their silence was telling. I didn't attend that meeting. I didn't need to. The walls were already closing in on Karen. 2 days later, I received a call from the DOJ's Civil Rights Division. The investigation was moving forward. ADA violations carried serious weight, especially when paired with violence against a minor and an ongoing pattern of harassment. Karen, the once untouchable queen of Evergreen Hills, now faced potential federal charges, and they scrambled. A letter arrived, this time hand-delivered and signed by every board member except Karen. It read, We, the remaining members of the Evergreen Hills Homeowners Association, unequivocally condemned the actions taken by Ms. Karen Whitlock and formally suspend her position as HOA president pending the outcome of the legal investigations. Please accept our deepest apologies for the harm caused to your family. Progress. But I wasn't done. I filed for a protective order not just for Liam, but for Daisy. It was granted within a week, restricting Karen from coming within 100 feet of either of them. The irony of having her own neighborhood off limits must have stung. Neighbors began to speak more openly now. A mother at the park brought over cookies. A veteran down the block told Liam his service dog reminded him of the one that saved him overseas. The fog Karen had cast over the community began to lift. And Liam, he laughed again. Daisy, paw fully healed, resumed her side-by-side strolls beside his chair. For the first time since the move, our house felt like a home, not a courthouse. One evening, as the sun set golden across our street, Liam looked up at me and asked, "Is it over?" I smiled. Almost, because justice doesn't always come with sirens or slamming doors. Sometimes it's slow, methodically quiet reckoning that creeps in like dawn after a storm. Karen had awakened something she didn't understand, and soon she would face the full weight of it. The courtroom wasn't mine this time, but I knew the rhythm like muscle memory. Karen stood across from me. Not in a neighborhood park, not behind a clipboard, but behind a defendant's table. The courtroom was smaller than federal chambers, but it had the same sterile lighting, the same quiet weight that wrapped around every word. She wore a gray suit, too loose at the shoulders, her hair tucked back in a way that tried to whisper innocence, but the arrogance still peeked through. How she refused to look at Liam, how she scoffed when the prosecutor described Daisy's injuries. The judge, an old colleague of mine from law school, kept things brief. This wasn't a full trial. It was a sentencing hearing. Karen had taken a plea deal when she realized that dragging the case out meant cameras, more depositions, and every HOA board member turning state's witness. The plea agreement was fair community service, mandated ADA education, restitution for veterinary and medical expenses, and a formal court-record apology to Liam. But what mattered most wasn't written in any legal document. It was what Karen had lost that truly reshaped the power balance. She was banned from holding the position of authority within the HOA for life. Her own neighbors had voted her out with a near-unanimous tally. The once feared neighborhood tyrant was now the one being whispered about, avoided, and quietly dismissed at every gathering. When she rose to speak, Karen's voice trembled not with remorse, but humiliation. "I regret the misunderstandings that occurred. I never meant to harm anyone. I didn't realize the extent of the legal protections for service animals." Even her apology was veiled in excuses. She didn't mention Liam by name. She didn't look at Daisy. She couldn't bring herself to speak the word attack. Liam sat beside me in the front row, wearing a navy sweater and holding Daisy's leash. He was calm, poised, far stronger than any 12-year-old should have to be. And when the judge asked if he had anything he wanted to say, Liam nodded. He wheeled forward, his voice clear despite the tremor in his hands. "Daisy saved me after the accident," he said. "She keeps me safe. She's not a pet. She's my legs when mine don't work and my heart when I get scared." Karen blinked, her mouth tight. "You hurt her because you didn't like the way we looked. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a choice." A hush fell over the courtroom. Even the judge cleared his throat before speaking again. "Thank you, Liam. You've reminded us what courage truly looks like." When it was over, we stepped outside into the crisp fall air. Cameras clicked in the distance, reporters murmuring behind velvet ropes, but I didn't stop. Not for them. Justice. That had already been served. The real story wasn't about Karen, it was about Liam. Back in Evergreen Hills, change was quietly unfolding. The new HOA board had adopted fresh policies, clear protections for residents with disabilities, guidelines for respectful dispute resolution, even a community inclusion committee. Neighbors who had once stayed silent now smiled as we passed. Some offered help with groceries. Others invited us to barbecues, game nights, or just to sit beneath the park's sycamore tree. And Karen, she moved 3 months later. Rumors said the whispers became too loud, the stares too cold. She sold the house at a loss and vanished into another zip code, one without cameras or consequences, at least for now. But Evergreen Hills didn't miss her. One Saturday, as Liam and I strolled the park together, Daisy trotting ahead, tail high, looked down at him and asked, "How do you feel now?" He grinned, free and safe. That was the only verdict that ever truly mattered. Later that week, a neighbor painted a small mural on the clubhouse wall. It showed a golden retriever sitting beside a boy in a wheelchair, both gazing out over a sunrise-colored field. Underneath it were the words, "Strength is quiet, justice is steady, kindness always wins." And for the first time in a long time, I exhaled. That Karen had tried to rule through fear. But in the end, she taught our community something far greater. That rules aren't made for control, they're made to protect. And when the wrong person wields power, the right voice must rise, even if that voice comes from a child, a service dog, or a mother who just happens to be a federal judge.